Yes, the recording is start now. You can start.
So it's my proud privilege to introduce Dr. Satyaprakash Prasad from Jamia Millia Islamia. He is a student of English language and literature committed to the synchronized theory with pragmatic end of education. He remains perceptive of the world around him and tries to weigh and measure instead of taking anything for granted. Educated from a humble family background, he went to pursue higher education from the seat of learning, that is Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. There he broadened his perceptive mind and completed his master's and doctor of philosophy in English literature. Since his days in BHU, he has been inclined towards research and academic engagements, and he takes pride in associating with one of the prestigious universities, Jamia Millia Islamia, as his place of work. He dons various roles in the university as an academician as well as in heading the responsibilities such as honorary assistant controller of examinations and central public information officer, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Moreover, he draws immense satisfaction in closely working with students and researchers. He looks forward to intensifying his efforts to contribute in academic as well as the corporate life of the university. So, welcome, Dr. Prasad, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sasi. It's quite an elaborate, introduction. I'm really thankful for that. And today I'm going to talk about, this text that has been, prescribed in your curriculum, that is Annihilation of Caste. Of course, I'll be talking about that particular text, but before I start discussing on that, I would like to, issue a disclaimer that, this text is quite radical in almost all sense, because, the kind of argument this text actually, engages in and actually creates, that is something which the student need to, look at it from a broader perspective. And before I start discussing on this text, I would start with a particular dictum, of Francis Bacon, which he states in his one of celebrated essays of studies. He says, we have not to study for the purpose of finding confute and argument, not to find talk and discourse, but to weigh and consider. This two operational word, that is that are weigh and consider, this should be basically implemented while we discuss this particular text. Baba Sahib, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, as all of you know, Bharat Ratna, he occupies a great space in Indian pre-independent political firmament, especially even after India got independence. He is considered to be the architect of the Constitution of India, as well as in a broader sense, he would be considered as the modern architect of India. So this very text that we have to discuss on, it is all about a speech which Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar actually prepared for his lecture in Lahore. He got invitation from Jat Pat Todak Mandal, which was actually an organization of caste Hindus, and they were taking great strides in bringing about social reforms, especially concerning untouchability. So socio-political ambience of that time was very different. We cannot really compare the situation of that time with contemporary situation, but more or less, situation remains the same. And politics that is happening around caste and caste affiliations supersedes every other consideration in the political scenario, especially in the contemporary life. So this particular speech, the text of which written by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which was intended to be delivered, which never was delivered in the public, but he thought of publishing it, by his own, because the Mandal, Jat Path Todak Mandal, when they were apprised of this, speech
Thank you.
that was perused by them, that they read, they went through this particular speech, and they found certain objectionable content, okay, especially with regard to religion, and as well as the Vedic Shastras and all that. So this was considered to be indictment by B.R. Ambedkar on the well fossilized, you can say, concretized concept of religion. So actually he was actually denied by them, basically, to put across his opinion, because he was not ready to compromise with the content of the speech. And the Jat Path Todak Mandal insisted on him to what you call sponge off some of the contents that were objectionable to the larger majority or the audience. They may take offense about that. So this was the genesis of this particular speech, the annihilation of caste. And as you know, annihilation of caste in no way is annihilation of religion. That has to be kept in mind while going through this text. Annihilation of caste actually talks about, or you can say,
Reach home and join.
It unmasked a lot of hypocrisies of social reformers, those who champion the right of the Dalits and the Harijans. It unmasks their hypocrisy. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, if you look at him, he can be easily appropriated by any ideological faction, whether it is women or feminism, feminist. You can call the marginal people, the minorities. They can also appropriate his vision, his ideologies. So to look at Ambedkar from a narrow perspective of a marginal, champion of marginal society, it won't be correct, because his vision was really broad, and he had a rationality of an advocate, of a barrister, okay, that he puts in his writing. So if you look at the contention that he starts with, he actually talks about the origin of Congress, and he talks about that there were two parallel factions that got originated at the very same time. One was looking at the political reforms or the political unison of the nationalists, which can be a force to reckon with in the pre-independence scenario, and which could really lead Indians towards their independence. The other group simultaneously formed was the group actually working for the social reforms. And these groups actually, they started working in that field, but initially they got a lot of support from those who were in favor of the political reform. They shared their stages, but at later date, there was a lot of friction going on between the two sections, the political faction and the social reformist. So he thought that he pointed out this particular flaw or chasm, that without a social reform, we cannot think of political reform. Political reform comes only after there is a social reform. And he gives a lot of example. He gives the example of Roman Empire. He gives the example of Buddhism, like the Chandragupta rule, or even the Ashoka kingdom. They were all initiated after there was a reform in the society. Of course, the advent of Buddha in the scenario was very much evident, and that had the repercussion in the political or the kind of governance they offer to people. Okay, similarly, he gave the example of the origin of Islam, he talks about Pagambar Muhammad, that he actually created a reform in the society, established a particular, dharmic tradition or Islamic tradition, and because of which we saw the great rise of Mughal dynasty or Islam, getting expanded in all across the world. Similarly, there were, a lot of movements which resulted in the great political might of the rulers or the rule. But in Indian context, this kind of social reform did not take place. And he actually ruled on the very fact that because of the absence of this social reform, whatever aim of Swaraj that we have, or self-rule we have, we conceive of, that is not going to result into any fruitful endeavor. And of course, for that, he says that there's a requirement to introspect. There's a requirement to introspect that how this caste thing has got, what you call cemented and fossilized in Indian society. So, he had published he presented a paper that is a caste in India, the genesis and mechanism, in Columbia University. And in his paper, he talks about the origin of caste. So most of the people believe that the caste system actually got originated with the Manu's Dharmasastra, but he does not feel like that. He says that caste did exist before the Dharmasastra of Manu, this Manu Smriti. Okay, so actually Manu did only one thing, that codified those things into plausible way, and that actually resulted in reinforcement of caste system. Okay, this Chaturvarn, or what you call the Varn Vyavastha, so Varn Vyavastha, he says that it is not the division of labor, but the division of laborers. That is important, because perennially one individual is catapulted into that social category where no transmigration is possible, that his position becomes fossilized, cemented forever. And this is how the system goes on. And there is no what you call way to combat this kind of stipulations, the kind of fossilization of caste system that we have. He said even in that paper that there was a time in India where there was no caste system existing. Okay, and there were classes, and slowly and gradually these classes, earlier they used to have exogamy, means marrying outside their clan, outside their class. So that time in the ancient India, they used to practice this exogamy, but slowly and gradually they started practicing endogamy. So it started with the very privileged caste, that is Brahmins, as he has pointed out, that they started creating that kind of social relationship which was based on endogamy. So what happened, this basic practice of the particular caste of the society was followed by the others, and the degree of their adherence to this endogamy varies according to their social strength. So the another one in the hierarchy of the caste system followed the Brahminical endogamic system very closely. The later one followed not so closely. So slowly and gradually the situation turned out to be like it became so fossilized, so cemented, that the process of interchange, or you can say the intermarriages was impossible. And in the later course of time, because of certain selfish interest of the people, this caste system persisted, and it continues so in the present context. So he talks about it in a greater detail in his paper, which he published in Columbia University in 1960, that is Caste in India, Genesis and Mechanism, like that. Now, talking about this present context, he says, social reformers, whoever actually started the reform work, they limited themselves with their family, the problem that they confronted in the family. For example, widow remarriage or sati pratha, whatever was prevalent by that time. They did not talk about the people who were outside from the purview of the caste system. They only fixated their reform program within the confinement of their lived experience. Since they did not live the experience of the downtrodden or the Dalit or so-called untouchable, so they did not talk about untouchability in a greater detail. They only talked about certain issues that persisted in the Hindu dharma, so to call, and that they focused on. So Ambedkar actually exposes that particular hypocrisy of the social reformers of the time, because Arya Samaj, people from Arya Samaj, they were the part of this Jat Pat Todak Mandal, and they had the objection about the use of Veda and Shastra, which Ambedkar wanted to use in his speech. Now, another thing that actually comes to fore, that what are the ways, how we can really think about prosperous India. He gives a very detailed, discussion on it, that how this caste system, this the caste system that exists in India, how that can be combated, how that can be annihilated or addressed. So he talks about what you call education, then the interdining. Interdining is important way through which the caste apartheid, or you can say the discrimination, can be stopped to a great length. But again, he is not so very confident about this interdining thing, because he points out there are a lot of communities which offer this interdining facilities, but still they are very much casteist in their outlook. He gives a lot of example that one Dalits in Allahabad, they were invited dinner, and they were served this ghee, and the upper caste people did not approve of it, that how come this Dalit can really eat ghee. Okay, so this issue of privilege and entitlement does not go away with the advancement of knowledge, or even with the upscale movement of social the professional hierarchy. A person can get a higher position by dint of his hard work, but still this caste thing is always attached to it. Okay, so I think we always often hear the news regarding this caste discrimination. A person from Dalit community is not entitled to ride on the horseback in his marriage, and a lot of people opposes that. This kind of mentality is still persisting, and he is very much aware of this kind of the discrimination that is happening on the basis of the caste segregation. And Peshwas, he talks about Peshwas in his Annihilation of Caste, that how they used to keep the Dalits and the untouchables at a distance. The untouchables were required to wear earthen pot, so that they can, if they wish to spit, they should spit on the earthen pot, because if they spit elsewhere, there's a possibility that the other caste people can get polluted, and they used to hang broomstick at their back. Okay, so these were the things can easily be called as a dehumanizing concept, and these dehumanizing concept was there in India, and of course in bits and practices you can see these things are still prevalent. So, he talks about the caste purity getting associated with Ved and Purana and the religious scriptures. And this is a bone of contention between, Gandhiji, who after this, Annihilation of Caste was published, Gandhiji wrote an article in his, journal that was Harijan, a vindication of caste, in which he praises Ambedkar so far as his right to assert is concerned, his right to express his opinion is concerned, and he criticizes the organizers of Jat Paat Todak Mandal that that Ambedkar was not given chance to express his opinion. But at the same time, he says that Ambedkar might have referred the wrong example from the Hindu scriptures, and these scriptures are to be read in complete holistic manner, not bits and pieces. So he is defending caste or Varna system. He goes to the extent of saying, Mahatma Gandhi goes to the extent of saying all the 4,000 castes which are there in India, they need to be dissolved and they should be straitjacketed within the 4 Varna system. So in a way, on the one hand, Gandhiji was talking about the emancipation of Dalit and empowerment of Dalit, calling them Harijan, the God's son or God's children. On the same time, he kept on, this particular idea of Varna system very much infused in his mind. So this is a kind of hypocrisy which Ambedkar exposes in the second edition of this Annihilation of Caste, in which he put the very essay that I have pointed out, that was, the caste in India, genesis and mechanism development. That was the essay that was inserted along with the letter of Gandhiji, along with the article of Gandhiji. So he gave a befitting reply to Mahatma Gandhi about the caste system. He says that no sovereign country, no country with an aspiration of being developed can afford to get divided into caste. Especially, he was talking about Hindu, dharma, and he was giving example of Islam and Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism. He says that in all other religion, there is a sense of community feeling. There is no sense of selfish desire limited to the caste. He goes to the extent of saying that, in Muslims, when there is a question of their existence or any challenges is thrown to them, they act like a community, unified community, and they mitigate all the differences they had on the individual level, and they present themselves as one entity. Which never happens in Hindu community. So one gets limited to his caste identity, and whatever the philanthropic or the benevolent work he is supposed to do, it must be limited to within the confines of that caste that he belongs to. So he is not critiquing, not only critiquing Hinduism, he is saying that so long this caste system is there in Hinduism, the Hinduism will be self-destructive from within. So that is something which is very radical, okay, and that may be understood to be a precursor to his renouncement of Hinduism in 1956. In 1956, after he got after India got independence, he was elected as he was given a chance of the first law minister. After completing his term, he renounced Hinduism, okay, along with 2 lakh followers, and he converted to Buddhism. Now, another question that is there in this whole concept. So he took almost 15, 20 years time to convert himself from Hinduism to Buddhism. Now, the important question is that a person with such erudite, such intellect, such capable, rational thinker, why did he take such a long time to convert himself from Hinduism, from the fold of Hinduism to Buddhism? The reason could be, found if somebody goes for a political and social analysis of the situation which existed in his time. He was isolated, okay, and singled out in more than so many occasions. Okay, Congress actually, as a political party, briefed him. Okay, another reason, there may be so many reasons for that. So there's a requirement of new historicist reading. If anybody is interested to go for that, it would be a new pattern, new idea that you can really bring in. Okay, if you go for a new historicist reading of Annihilation of Caste. Apart from that, it actually gives a lot of pattern for educated mind. I think the contemporary relevance of this particular speech, undelivered speech, is very paramount. And student across the different disciplines, from the social sciences to literature, anyone can go through it, try to find out the main arguments, what arguments B.R. Ambedkar is trying to posit and trying to find solution of. So I guess if you give a good reading of this particular text, so you will be enriching yourself, especially with the socio-political ambience of our country and what could be the future of our society as Hindu. Of course, there's a requirement of a lot of reforms in almost all religion. It is unwise to say in the modern context that one religion is suffering from this caste system. If you look at all across the different religion, caste does exist in almost all religion. Okay, whether it is Sikhism, okay, whether it is Buddhism, 17 factions are there in Buddhism. I think more than 44 firqas are there in Islam. A lot of factions there are in Sikhism as well. In Jainism, there are 4 or 5 different point of view. So across every religion in this world, we find caste, faction, compartmentalization. So if you have a humanistic, philanthropic perception, there are ways to mitigate these challenges. And of course, if you read and recontextualize this annihilation of caste without being passionate and emotional about the religious sanctity, that most of us may be suffering from, like, I'm from Hinduism, so I may have a certain reservation to read this particular text. But if you dispense with all those things and try to focus on the interplay of the text, you will find that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has presented a deconstruction of caste and deconstruction of Hinduism. Okay, so deconstruction is not always destructive. As you are the student of literature, you must be aware of the fact that deconstruction encapsulates a lot of possibilities, that what we can do, how can we shake the binaries. So these binaries which were erected by the caste system, okay, othering process, all those things, they can be dismantled by shaking those binaries. And Ambedkar, what he did in his text, that he shook the binaries completely and dismantled the caste purity and sanctity. And he challenges the authority of Veda and Shastra, that whatever was true in 10,000 years or 5,000 years could not be true to the modern context. In modern context, there is a requirement of adoption, or you can say, what you call evolution. Evolution is the key here. Change in the perception, change in the ways that we follow a particular religion needs to be done. And that's why we need to be more dialogic, we need to be more discursive, we need to be more engaging ourselves in this kind of discussion, so that we can really provide a nice template to the future. I think I'm done with the text, and if anybody wishes to have a question on it, I'll be happy to respond.
Yes, CRs, you can take the questions from your friends and ask. All of you are now panelists now. So I think, Dr. Saab, that it was very comprehensive ones, and they are first year students, so they might not have any questions. This is their first semester in this department.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
So it was very comprehensive, and thank you so much for joining us on this short notice. Thank you so much, sir.
No issue. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for having me here.
मकसूद जी क्लोज कर दीजिए. अच्छा मकसूद जी, इसकी अटेंडेंस लिस्ट डाउनलोड हो जाएगी?